depression. Other factors are physical illness, life events such as the death of a loved one, and drug abuse. Now, a majority of those depressed tend to turn to alcohol in an attempt to cope with their depression. And that will be our main focus of our discussion this morning. And joining me in studio to help me just get some of the solutions to these issues to my immediate left is Njuki Benson, who is the founder of Kenya Youth Empowerment Forum. And next to him is, of course, Cecilia Mboya, who is a psychologist. Thank you very much for making time to join us here on Weekend Express. I'll start with you, Cecilia.
Yes.
What is depression?
Depression is that kind of low mood. Once in a while, all of us feel sad, we feel low, just that blue feeling when things are not moving well, especially when we experience loss. But depression becomes a serious issue if it runs. We have the same kind of feeling for over 2 weeks, and it's persistent and it affects the way we do our things. We experience feelings of hopelessness and helplessness, and it is continuous for at least 2 weeks. And that is that is the spiral of which begins of depression. Mm-hmm. So it becomes clinical. If it affects the way we do our things, we are not able to work. For our, maybe the loved ones, people are complaining there's something happening around us, and sometimes we even experience some anger outburst. And the people in our environment, whether it is at work or at home, people can feel there's something wrong which is going on.
All right.
Yes.
And, you know, what causes depression? Because we're seeing issues like poverty, the loss of, you know, a loved one. What else causes them?
There are different causes for depression. Most of the times it's because of frustrations, which could be caused by unemployment, is true. Mm-hmm. It could be this sense of feeling that I have no sense for my future. I feel I'm not getting my way. I feel I'm not managing things the way I should manage. Mm-hmm. And therefore, that kind of thinking, that kind of feeling helpless and hopelessness is the one which makes us go down and down and down. And the feeling that there's nothing much I can do about my situation. Right. So it's more mental in nature. It's my thinking and the thinking pattern and the repetitive kind of thinking about negativity, about their inability to cope.
All right.
Yes.
And Njuki, you've suffered from depression before. How was it for you? What led to it?
There was this kind of self-denial in which came across as a result of conflict between me and my parents, in which I had this scenario that I saw myself like I am I saw myself like I am a disgrace to the community. To an extent, there was this scenario that someone in the community told my mom that Benson said that you are not his real mom. So there was this conflict and disagreement between me and my mom. And I thought, what should I do for this? I had this at a time I was experiencing some symptoms like temper. I was always temper. I felt the act of loneliness. And there was this, I needed to stay alone. I tried to isolate myself from other people. At a time, I could just make a ridiculous laughter in which it was not a usual one. Yeah, at a time I was overexcited for just petty things, and later along, after I consulted one of my friends, she told me that you're suffering on depression and you should shift from whatever you are thinking deeply on and try to think on something else.
All right.
Yeah.
And after how long did you realize this? When the issue started, how long did you realize that, you know, this is something serious, this is depression?
Okay, it was like kind of 1.5 years, because I saw this thing, it's going on, growing. At a time, I could get into my room, I want to be alone. I don't want to reason to anyone. I was taking myself as the most active person. I saw everyone around me was wrong. But after that, I saw, hey, I should change on something. And as a result, I decided to let me to compose myself and to take life positively.
Around that period, did you by any chance, you know, indulge in alcohol, overindulge?
No. Anything concerning drugs, I did not engage myself in, but I was deeply suffering because at a time I thought I was diabetic or undergoing some, I had BP because I was always hot-tempered. At a time, it was a scenario that I did not expect anything good to come from any person in the community. Yeah.
All right. Cecilia, let me come back to you. Of course,
Yes.
for him, it took him 1.5 years. There are people who it takes more.
Yes.
For him, he did not indulge in alcohol or drugs, you know. What are the different ways people react to depression?
Now, people are different. And of course, the causes of depression are different. And depending on the differences of the causes and the differences of people, that's personalities, people adopt different methods of coping. And also that coping also is determined by our environments. If I had a father who coped through his stresses, through drinking, or maybe whatever, then I do the same thing. So you find sometimes our environment determines how different people cope. Even our peers, our friends, or our personalities. Some of us, we get back to ourselves. People withdraw. And they want to be alone. Of course, those are some of the manifestations of depression. They want to be alone. They get withdrawn. They don't want to talk with anyone. They're suffering. And you know, our minds are very, they're very strange. The more you think of something, the more we magnify it. And therefore you find some people, because of the social, the kind of people they move with, they go to drinking, they experiment, and they see how they can be, whether they, and you see, some of these things, they give us some temporal pleasure, like drinking, or maybe taking some junks, eating some things, sugary things which make you feel good, or it's just smoking. Different people cope differently, and that is what causes sometimes people to get addicted into some things like alcohol.
For him, the case was different.
Yes.
You know, he felt that something was wrong, and he approached a friend. But for most people, that is not the case. Just for the sake of our viewers, someone who is watching, how exactly, as one who is depressed, how can I identify that, you know, I am suffering from depression?
Now, for one to know that they are they are suffering from depression, there are some manifestations, some features. One of them is these feelings of I'm not okay. Okay, for me, I would know that if I'm talking about from two scenarios. As an individual, how do you know you are depressed? When you start feeling helpless, hopeless, you feel frustrated, you feel you don't know how to handle this, you feel you have no strength, you feel you are not able to cope, you don't feel like doing anything. Even some things which used to give you some pleasure sometimes, you lose interest, you are not interested, and actually you have low levels of energy. For the family, for family and friends, they know this person maybe was active, like he said. Somebody was active in a certain ways, but now they start withdrawing. They no longer have the energy to do the things they were doing. And it could be withdrawal, and sometimes it's anger outbursts. Somebody just gets irritated, and we are talking about maybe around 3 times a week. Almost every day somebody is having this kind of symptoms, 3 maybe to 4 days a week. And also, when people start complaining that now, how come nowadays you are staying a lot in the room, you are doing this, you are not talking, you are withdrawn, you are engaged maybe in something more, then that means you are a little depressed, and especially when somebody is having all these negative emotions, taking place in somebody's life.
All right, just a reminder to our viewers that, of course, our lines are open. You can always call in. If you have a story you can share with us. Are you depressed? Maybe you can find out from Cecilia right now, who's a psychologist, so you can always call in and just give in that information. Njuki, I'll come back to you. Of course, you run a Kenya Youth Empowerment Forum. Have you interacted with youths that have been depressed because of one reason or another?
Yeah, like a recent case is concerning a girl who was aged 18 years. And she had already completed her high school and scored a very good grade that was B plain. And she had no parents, she was an orphan. And this scenario brought her to engaging herself in drugs and alcoholic issues. And to an extent, she got, as a result of those kind of behaviors, she was pregnant and later on gave birth, but still the dream of education was still in her. And she was working within Nyeri. Then one of her friends told Benson, come and talk to this lady. You can see on how you can help her. And as a group, we decided, after I listened about the story, we decided to to try on how we can help her partially. And for instance, her scenario was very sensitive because she had nowhere to sleep. She was like sleeping in friend's house, in which, you know, for some time you and your friend, you can have some conflicts. And because he is catering for everything, or she is catering for everything about you, you will be like told, go out of my room, I don't want to see you again. She was kind of engaged into kind of scenario. And later on, as a group, we decided that this is a girl child. We can do something unique. And we opened a group that we started to, it was kind of Elimisha Charity. She's a friend of ours. And as a result, we managed to contribute some cash. And later along, we got a well-wisher, whom he decided to take her through the higher education in university. Now she is already in first year, Nairobi University.
All right.
Yeah.
You know, most people actually do not know that depression can be treated from family members to friends. There's different ways of helping one who is depressed. What exactly are these ways?
Yeah, you have said it right. Depression can be treated. It doesn't matter how severe it is, it can be treated. And it's very important for people to realize that it can be treated. One way is support. And we are talking about people are helped, maybe seeing a therapist who can help them understand that some of the ways they are using in coping through maybe the loss or the frustrations they are having, they can change them and they use better coping mechanisms. Because all of us get into problems in life. And when we know that one way of life is having disappointments, sometimes we don't welcome. When we learn to know that life in their disappointments, you find it is people learn better way of coping. And one of the things most of the time which causes, apart from the chemical imbalance in the body, which is physical, or maybe it's maybe it is because of the foods people eat. Most of the reasons why people have depression is because of the way they think. It's a thought pattern. So one of the best ways is to help people to change the way they think about life and different things in life. Right. And the other thing is when it is severe, of course, people need to go and see psychiatrists and they need medication. They need to be helped on how to handle themselves. Sometimes it cannot be handled with just mere talk, psychological and social support. The other thing is having families. And now and friends who can support the person suffering from depression. Unfortunately, most of the people, when they have depression, they withdraw from the loved ones. The people who are able to help them, friends and families. But again, that is the people who can help them distract some of them from their thinking. But let me say something about family.
Yes.
When a member of the family is depressed, the other members, sometimes they are affected. And when they are affected, sometimes they may not be of much help. And therefore, that is why we need some friends also, and some other members of not just the nuclear family. Like, when he talks about him being affected, he's looking at the mother, and maybe there's what he's feeling, maybe there's what the mother is feeling. You may find sometimes the social support, sometimes we have a very narrow social support. We need to increase the support. That connection, emotional connection, it helps us to be able to move. So we need a combination of all this to be able to move on.
For you, of course, being someone who's experienced depression, you survived it, you surpassed it, and here you are, you have a youth empowerment group. What other ways do you have or do you do to help these people who are suffering from them in that group, or even those that you encounter in the way?
What we are doing as per now, we are using as the social media as a way of communication, and probably for some people who can like to get in touch with me, I always call myself as Benta Karinjoke. You will see my scripts there. And as usual, I always say that each and every time, if you give a story of life, it changes one or two people who are experiencing some characters like I had. For instance, in my case, due to the depression that I was going through, I declined from my performance in school.
Okay.
It was kind of strange.
At that time, you were in university?
Nope. At that time, I was in primary school.
Okay.
Yeah. It was back in primary school. But at the time span that I came to know that I was going under this kind of depression, I was in Form 3. And it took me 1.5 years to understand that I was undergoing some unfamiliar things and some extraordinary things. Like, for instance, I had this issue of headaches here and there. Like, I thought, what's going on? To an extent, I was suspecting myself that I had some infection in my body. Yeah. To an extent, I had this self-denial completely. And due to that, I always talk to young people and say that young people with great experience can share the experience with other young people so that the young people can change their way of living and way of understanding and taking things.
All right. So then what is the youngest age where one can get depression? Because he was in primary school. And with primary, it is that age where you're becoming a teen, so many things are happening. So people can quickly mistaken it as adolescents.
People get depressed as young as they can be young. As long as, because we are talking about those feelings of helplessness. Even a small child can get depressed. Because we are talking about, we are talking about the feelings of feeling I'm hopeless. Maybe the things I hoped were like this, they are no longer the same, or I used to feel like this. As long as the child can be able to understand themselves and the situation they are going on, and even if they don't understand, they can feel the emotional pain. Even for 5 years, even children can begin, because we are talking about, for example, if children are abused, physical abuse, battering at home. That children is frustrated because they don't know what to do to deal with their frustration at home. And you said it very well about, for example, unemployment, where the parents are they don't have foods, or they are hungry, they can see their friends are eating, they are not eating, they can even get the smell. That's a frustration, and the children can actually, and then they get this, what we call somatic features, where somebody sometimes get even physical manifestation of sickness, headaches, stomachache, and all those kind of things. So even children suffer depression.
Exactly. So children, for a child to know they're depressed, how should parents even react or know that this is happening?
It is just the same features. They have low energies, they don't feel like doing something, maybe some small children, they are crying, they are irritable, all those kind of manifestations. Otherwise, then the parents are complain about it, the teachers feel there's a problem, and anybody around their social circles can see there's a problem.
All right.
Yes.
We want to take a short break here on Weekend Express, but of course, when we come back,